praises to Yahuah. I want to say shalom and welcome back to you all, Mashpaka, and to the Akut for the reminder concerning recording. I'm not sure if it's going to allow me to record to the cloud in this program, but we're definitely recording on YouTube, so the recording will at least be available there. I did get, it does tell me that it is recording though, but just in case we don't have a record of it, where we can go back and get it. It is on YouTube, nonetheless, and it will be recorded there. So, Tuda Mashpaka for that reminder. All right, family. So we're picking up today in our study. We're picking up in the book of Mashali, which is the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 24 is where we're going back to. We had jumped ahead the other day. I believe it's chapter 24 is where we're, yeah. Is it 24? Yeah, 24. We're going back to chapter 24. Okay. We had covered chapter 24 a few weeks back, and we had promised to go back to it. We're going back to chapter 24, and you know what, family? The lesson that we covered from chapter 24, when it wasn't, we don't have a recording from it, what we covered, I don't know if it's going to be the same today. That's the depth of Yahuah's word. Listen, I'll say this, you know, when I come before you, family, I don't prepare a lesson. I read the word, I read Yahuah's word, and I let it speak to me and through me, but I don't have any notes. I don't write anything down. I really don't. And I'd promised to go back over 24 because we don't have a recording of it. But I'm telling you now that what I'm getting, even in as I read and in preparation to go over it again, it might not be the same that came out before. You know, it's just, that's just the depth of Yahuah's word, and I'm sorry. It's so what I'm trying to say to you is, to ask me to go over something exactly the way that it was before might be impossible. Not impossible. Yahuah willing, he can do that. But, you know, I just have to allow him to do what he does. But we're going over chapter 24 here again. And it is my prayer. Yes, indeed. It is my prayer that it will be a baraka to you. But you see, family, I don't write anything down. I don't come here. Very rarely do I come with some notes prepared, and when that's the case, I'll let you know it's available on this wherever, and you can go. We can go over it together. But I don't write anything down for these studies, Mashpaka. You know, so I'm sorry. I don't feel confident in promising that it's gonna be just like it was the last time. But Yahuah's word is so deep, it is so profound, that there is so much to gain from it every time you go back to it. And I believe that's what we'll see here again today. Okay, indeed. Okay, so yes, indeed. Every time we go back, it gets richer and deeper and just more filling, right? So we're going to go to his word today, family. We're going into chapter 24. Okay, and you know, there is one verse in particular. There is one verse in particular in chapter 24 that I'd like to kind of focus on today. It's not the verse that I'm necessarily gonna stay on, but there is one verse in particular that I'd like to focus on. Okay. Um, Wait, give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Should I be... okay, let me get to chapter 24. I think I have 23 on the screen. Let me just make sure I have the right... Okay, I do have chapter 24 on the screen. All right. I'm going to go back. Actually, I titled it because I was thinking of chapter 25 when I titled this lesson. Okay, but I'm going to go back to chapter 24 today. But so I might have given the wrong title because I was thinking of chapter 25 when I titled the lesson, because we did not complete chapter 25, and we intend to go back to chapter 24 also. And I was thinking of chapter 25 when I titled the lesson. Because I already titled this, family, I'm going to just pick up in chapter 25, because I titled it for 25, but I was thinking about 24. I'm sorry, the chapters were running together for me. I was thinking that we need to cover chapter 24, but we also need to finish chapter 25. We had covered chapter 24, we didn't finish it. No, it wasn't recorded. We did finish it, but it wasn't recorded. And then we went to chapter 25, and we didn't complete chapter 25. We went to chapter 26. And so I titled this today for chapter 25 is what I titled it for, but I was thinking we need to finish we need to revisit chapter 24. So forgive me for the confusion there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go back today, finish chapter 25, and then we're going to go back and we're going to cover chapter 24. Okay, so let me get that straight. We're going to finish chapter 25, and then we're going to go and we're going to revisit chapter 24 after we have completed chapter 25. Okay, family? All right. Sometimes read and all of it gets sometimes things get a little the chapters can sometimes run together for me, so I forgive me for that, but I titled this for chapter 25, not for chapter 24. Okay, and so the title of our study for today is, as you see on the screen here from YouTube, the weak crumble under pressure. The weak crumble under pressure. Right, we're coming from Mashali, Proverbs chapter 25. Okay, Mashali, Proverbs chapter 25 is where we're coming from. We have titled it the weak crumble under pressure. Okay, all right, so in chapter 25 I'm going to pick up today, family. I'm going to pick up really from verse 8, but to remind us, to kind of bring us up to speed and to remind us of where we left off, I'm gonna pick up from verse 7. I'm just going to read from verse 7, but I'm not going to begin to get into the text until about verse 11 or so. So I'm just going to start reading, and then I'll get into the text a little bit later on. Okay, verse 6. Do not exalt yourself before a king. Okay, and do not stand in the place of great men. Do not stand in the place of great men. We have looked at this before. In other words, don't help yourself to a seat at the table if you have not been assigned. Don't just go taking, putting yourself in a high position, so to speak, right? Don't take it upon yourself to put yourself in a high seat. Okay, we have that issue again. Again, I don't know why it comes across for some of our family fuzzy. For some it comes across clearly. I looked at my settings, and there is nothing more it seems I can do to change that, family. Um, um, uh, no, I haven't had a chance to speak with Zoom. But what I did was I did go in and look at the settings, kind of search through the program, and everything is set where it should be clear. So when I get a chance, I will call them and see if there's something I'm missing. But I don't know why it does that. It's clear for some and not clear for others. All right. All right, so do not exalt yourself before a king, and do not stand in the place of great men. For it is better for him to say to you, come up here, than that you should be put lower before a noble whom your eyes have seen. Okay, we have covered this before, so I'm not going to go into any great detail on that. I'm just reading for right now. Do not go forth to strive in haste, for what would you do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame? And we've covered that also. Plead your case with your neighbor himself, and do not disclose the secret of another. We have covered that. Lest he who hears it put you to shame, and your evil report turn not back. A word spoken at the right time is like apples of gold in settings of silver. And we talked about knowing when to speak and what to speak. A ring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise one's reproof to an ear that hears. Like the cold of snow in time of harvest is a trustworthy messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the life of his masters. He who boasts of his gifts falsely is like clouds and wind without rain. Through patience a ruler is persuaded, and a soft tongue shatters a bone. Okay, and we've covered that. Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be satisfied with it and vomit. And we talked about overindulgence. We covered that in last week's lesson. Okay, now, as a matter of fact, you know what, family? I think I went over this, and I think 25, we covered 25 fully last week, so I think I am correct in saying that we should be in chapter 24. If I'm not mistaken, we did cover 25. We talked about overindulgence, because yes, yeah, I kind of have the chapters mixed up in my head here. We did cover chapter 25. We talked about overindulgence. Last week, chapter 26, we're going back because we had skipped ahead. Okay. Let me see. I want to make sure. Give me 1 second, because I was reading and now I got the chapters all mixed up. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to chapter 24. I think that's really where I should be. Okay. I titled this based on a verse, and I can't remember exactly what verse it is now. But I'm going to go back to chapter 24, okay? Because we did finish chapter 25 last week, if I recall correctly. Let me check the comments. So 24 is correct. Oh, sorry about that, Aki. Let me get it on here. All right, chapter 24. I'm going to begin at verse 1 in chapter 24. Okay, maybe it's what's happening here. I'm being thrown off by the translation I'm looking at. But I'm going to begin in chapter 24. Okay, and we'll go from there. Again, we had covered chapter 24 in the past, but as I was reading it, I got you could say other revelations from the text, and so though we have covered it, and we've covered it in totally and to one extent, I believe that what we hear from it today is slightly different. Okay, so I'm going to pick up here from verse 1 in chapter 24. Do not envy evil men, nor desire to be with them. And I think that speaks for itself. Do not envy evil men, nor desire to be with them. And you know, that applies in particular when we're dealing with our situation, or a situation in which we feel as if we are lacking, right? We're trying our best to live as pleasing to Yahuah as we can, but yet and still it seems as if we're still lacking. It seems as if everybody around us is getting ahead. Everybody around us is being successful. They're succeeding, but we just can't get ahead. We're still lacking. We're doing all the right things, but yet we are still being oppressed. You see, and we still feel depressed, even though we're doing all the right things, right? And it's easy for us to look at the wicked and to become frustrated and even to become ungrateful, because when you make the wicked your focus because he is prospering, then we can become easily distracted, and when we become distracted, we begin to blame Yahuah, right? We begin to blame Yahuah for what we feel he should be doing, but we feel he's not doing. Why? Because we're not looking at Yahuah. We're not focused on Yahuah. We're focused on the wicked, right? And so as long as we're not focused on Yahuah, but we're looking on the wicked, we will not be able to really see and understand what it is that Yahuah is doing and how it is that he is working in our lives. We can only see what the wicked is doing. But that creates a problem. It creates a problem because, as we discussed when we first went over this passage, we talked about the that instance with Lut and Abraham, right? His son. They call him Lot. His name is Lut. Lut and Abraham, right? Lut looked across. He said, now this space has become too small for us. You see, number one, they shouldn't have been traveling together, because when Yahuah told Abraham to leave his country and to go to the land that he had promised to his father, he did not tell him to take family members and leave the country, but he told him, he said, leave your country, leave your countrymen and go to the land that I promised to your father. But now he felt the need to take his nephew with him, right? He felt the need to take his nephew with him, and so he took his nephew with him, and eventually it became a problem between them, because now the nephew that he took with him, now all of a sudden the nephew felt like the space wasn't big enough for them. You see, the nephew felt like the space wasn't big enough for them, and now there were problems. Yes, that's the next place where I was getting ready to go, Aki, to that for posting from chapter 37. And as time go on, if you can continue to post those verses, because I intended to go there on this one, then that would be greatly appreciative. Tahalim, Psalms chapter 37, right? But so Abraham had taken a family member with him when Yahuah tell him to pack his stuff and go by himself. And you see, that can be a problem, family. Because when Yahuah tell you to do something by yourself, when he tell you don't get it family involved, when he tell you go by yourself, but you know, we are so connected emotionally that we want to take our family with us. right? Oh, so you come to a knowledge of Yahuah, and you feel the need to drag your family along with you, even though they're kicking and screaming. And because you feel so strongly about dragging them along with you when Yahuah never told you to bring them with you, but you feel like they must come with me, I can't leave them here. Yahuah never told you to bring them with you. You see, so now you're trying to bring them with you at all costs. And eventually, you know what's going to happen? It's going to create some problems. It's going to create some problems. It's going to get you into situations that you would have not been in had you not taken them. You see, so Abraham took his nephew with him, and then some problems started among them, and his herdsmen and Abraham's herdsmen wasn't getting together, and so he said, you know what, this space has gotten too small for us, and I gotta go find me another spot. And so he looked, and not being considerate of his uncle, who was so thoughtful of him, he looked and he saw what he thought to be the best piece of land. And Abraham, taking the humbler position, he said to his nephew, okay, listen, look all around you and see what direction in which you want to go. If you decide to go east, I'm going to go west. Whatever direction you decide to go in, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Looked around, and he saw this place, and it was beautiful. The lights were glaring, and everything just seemed attractive, and he says, that's where I want to be. You see? He figured that he was taking the best piece of land, But in the end, Abraham, his uncle, had to go rescue him. He had to go fight a war on his behalf to rescue his nephew. Now, again, had Abraham not taken his nephew with him, Yahuah never told him to take him with him, and had he not taken him with him, he would not have encountered the kind of problems that he encountered. Would have not been in a war, you see, had he not taken him with him. Okay? So, but the problem there is that, again, coming back to the point, do not envy evil men. Looked, and he saw that these people over here were prospering, that this has got to be a good land. But you know what? It wasn't good. He envied evil men. And as it turned out, his whole family was impacted by it. Not only his whole family was impacted by it, but it came back to be a thorn in Yasharal's side. So his decision to go to Sodom and Gomorrah ended up being a generational situation, you see, because he envied evil men. Now, in the book of Tehillim, chapter 37 and verse 1, it tells us, it says, do not fret because of evildoers. Do not be envious of the workers of unrighteousness. You see, do not fret because of evildoers. Why? Because in the morning, they rise up like the green grass. But in the evening, they're withered and cut down. And what? Cast into the fire. Right? And so we can't spend our days worried about what the wicked have and what we don't have. We have to spend our time focused on what Yahuah has done in our life, and what he does in our life, and what he continues to do. Right? So do not envy evil men, nor desire to be with them. Right? Do not envy them, nor desire to be with them. Don't desire to be like them. For their heart plots to ravage. That's the thing about the wicked. The only way they stay on top is because they continue to ravage other people. They continue to rape and to pillage. They continue to dispossess. They continue to do wickedly. And that's the only reason why they seem to prosper. But that's not true prosperity. You see. Tehillim 37:7, rest in Yahuah and wait patiently for him. Rest in Yahuah and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man doing wicked devices. He's prospering or so it seems, only because of his wickedness. And it will not last. There comes a day when he will have to pay. For their heart plots to ravage, and their lips talk of trouble. You know, when you're around wicked people, the only thing that can come from them is wickedness. That's the only thing they think about on a daily basis. That's the only thing they talk about the downfall of somebody else. You see, in some way or the other, they're always plotting evil, always speaking evil. You see, always scheming, always plotting. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. You know, verse 3 is very much connected to verse 1 and 2. Verse 3 is very much connected to verse 1 and 2. We're talking about prospering. We're talking about security. We're talking about longevity, right? We're talking about being secured, being kept, right? Now, oftentimes when you look at the wicked, family, oftentimes when you look at the wicked and you see them getting ahead, they get ahead quickly, right? They get ahead quickly. Yeah, you might have been living in the hood all your life and you're trying to get out and you're trying to buy a house, but it ain't happening for you. And you look around you and you see all these people, they've been able to do this, do that, and do the other, and you're wondering when your day will come. Yeah, they have built their house, but they have certainly not built it out of wisdom. You see, wisdom takes time. Wisdom takes time. Wisdom is not something that comes overnight. But wisdom, in order to gain wisdom, it takes time. But you know what? It is only what's done out of wisdom that will last. You see? If your gauge of success is the wicked, if your gauge of success is a foolish person, then you're in some deep trouble, because you're going to make bad decisions trying to keep up with the wicked. You see, you're going to make wrong decisions trying to keep up with the wicked, trying to have what the wicked has. You're going to make some very bad decisions because your decisions will not be based in wisdom. You see, you're only concerned with keeping up with the Joneses. You're only concerned with fulfilling a certain status quo and not living a life built on wisdom. Your only concern is building a house and not being concerned with the foundation. But you see, if you build a house and the foundation ain't right, then pretty soon the house is going to crumble. You know, some people might want to build a house, and the way to build a house is to dig down and to make sure that you hit bedrock, that you're on solid foundation. But they figure, you know what, man, that's going to take too much time. I ain't got time to dig down. I need to get this thing up real quick so people can see that I'm doing something. You know, I need the structure to go up. I don't care about what's below ground. I need for everybody to see that I have accomplished something. And you took no time to do the work that is truly necessary. You know, the work that is necessary is the work that is not seen. The work that you do that is necessary is the work that nobody else sees. But you know, a lot of times, because the important stuff is the stuff that's not seen, then a lot of people don't like that part of it. They only want the roles in which they can be seen. You know, they want to shine, you see. And they'll surpass the stuff that is not seen just so that they can be seen. And when you do that, you're setting up yourself to fail, and to fail terribly. Because now that you have set yourself up, then when you fall, everybody's going to see you fall. You see? But if you took the time to build a solid foundation, then you wouldn't have to worry about the house crumbling. Right? So we can't be so concerned with keeping up with the Joneses. Our house must be built on wisdom. Whatever we do wisdom must be our guide, not somebody else. Not what somebody else is doing or seemingly accomplishing, but whatever we do, it must be rooted in wisdom. You see, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. You see, if you lack understanding, you might be able to build something, but guess what? It will not be established. It will not be established. Let's look at the word for a moment. Let's look at the word that is used, that is translated established. Okay? Okay? Now, the word that is translated establish is takuni or takunan. Okay? Takunan. What they have here is they have ya takunan, but that's because it's a phrase. The word is takunan. Okay? And what it means is to be firm, to be secured, to be firmly established. That's what it means. Okay, so by wisdom a house is built. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. Okay? Anybody can build a house, but is it built in wisdom? Is it built based on wisdom and understanding? If it's not, you can build a house, but it will not last. It will not be firmly established. You will build it, and pretty soon, the moment a storm comes, it will be decimated, blown down, you see. And by knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. And by knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Now, family, there's a key here. We're talking about accomplishing things, right? Accomplishing things in life. And that could be anything, right? Talking about building a house. Building a house could be, your house could be anything. What are you building? It could be anything, right? Now, wisdom and knowledge don't come overnight. If you want to accomplish anything that lasts, you know what? It's going to take some time. Because in order for you to accomplish something that lasts, you need to gain knowledge. And knowledge don't come overnight. Knowledge don't come overnight. Wisdom don't come overnight. It all takes time. And so patience is necessary. Patience is important in whatever we do. Patience is important, right? In whatever we do. If we have a desire, we have to be patient. We can't allow ourselves to get ahead of Yahuah, right? We can't allow ourselves to get ahead of wisdom. You see, you know what happens when you're trying to put something together, but you feel like, man, it's too much to read the instructions. I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'll look at this picture and I'll put it together. What usually happens in the end? You know what usually happens in the end? You come to the end of it and you find that you have about 5 screws laying to the side, right? And you might rock the thing a little bit and you realize it's got a little creak to it. And you know what? By this time you say, man, by this time you say, you know what, man, it'll be alright. I ain't taking this apart again. You see? You might find that the door is leaning one kind of way and you can't get it straight. And so now you decide to live with imperfection. You know why? You decide to live with less than what you should be living with, simply because you did not take the time to gain some knowledge. Right? You wanted something that was hurry done, hurry come up, as they would say. You see what I'm saying? You didn't want to take the time to gain the knowledge. You see, to gain knowledge takes time. To gain wisdom and understanding, it takes time. And we got to be willing to take the time to gain the knowledge. If we don't take the time, then guess what? We're going to live with some broken down things in our lives. And then you know what? Yep, we're doing it our own way. And then you know what? The thing that you built will not last as long as it should. You end up costing yourself more than it should. You see, we can't allow the wicked to be our guide or our measure for success. We can't allow them to determine where we should be. You see, because some people look at the wicked and try to use them as a gauge as to where they should be at a certain point in their life. You can't allow that. You can't allow the wicked to determine where you should be in your life. Because you see, what will happen is oftentimes the wicked will have stuff that they have no business having at that point in their life, because they have not taken the time to learn how to care for what it is that they have. They haven't gained no knowledge. Yahuah, being the good father that he is, he's not going to give us anything before the time. You see. He's not going to give us anything before the time. He's going to give it to us when he knows that we are ready for it. When he knows that we have gained wisdom, we have gained knowledge, we have gained understanding. When he knows that we now know how to be responsible with it. What happens to most people who, for example, come suddenly into some kind of wealth? What happened to most people who comes unexpectedly, suddenly and unexpectedly in some kind of wealth? You know what happens to most of them who come suddenly into some kind of wealth? Within a year, they're broke. Within a year, they're broke. You know, just about everybody dream of being a millionaire or multimillionaire. But of all the people who dream about being a millionaire and wanting to be a millionaire, for example, and for some people money is everything, okay, that's the only reason why I'm using that right now. I don't desire to be a millionaire just to have money. I desire to prosper so that I can be of help to other people who need it. You see, but most people who dream of being a millionaire, if you ask them, if you should gain $1 million right now, what would you do with it? You know what? They couldn't tell you. They couldn't tell you anything that is meaningful or lasting that they would do with it. You see? Buy a house, buy a car. You know, I seen somebody, them ask a guy that on TV not too long ago. And the lottery was for some amount of money, and everybody was standing in line, and they asked a guy, if you win, what would you do with it? What did he say, babe? Said that he was going to give his friend some money, get drunk, and get high. That's what he said. You see? And he's standing in the line trying to buy a lottery ticket so he can win this money. He obviously ain't got no kind of wisdom, no kind of knowledge, no kind of understanding. Hardly any sense whatsoever. Right? No vision. No vision. And that's the thing, family. A lot of people, you know, sometimes when Yahuah is keeping us from some stuff, because sometimes Yahuah won't allow us or certain things to come into our lives because he knows us and he's keeping us from ourselves. And we don't have enough vision to see that Yahuah is protecting us from ourselves. We don't have enough vision to see that Yahuah is protecting us from ourselves. We don't have that vision, you see. Oh, wonderful, Akut. We don't have enough vision to see that Yahuah is protecting us from ourselves. Oftentimes, Yahuah is protecting us from ourselves. I want to go back for a moment to the parable of the prodigal son. I want to go back for a moment to the parable of the prodigal son, family. Now, the prodigal son was living at home, still living at home with his parents, right? Him and his brother. Now, it came a day when he said that he couldn't wait for them to die. And so he said that he wanted his portion of the inheritance. He says, give me the portion of the inheritance that belonged to me. Now, that was some nerve. That was some nerve. Can you imagine having a child? They just can't wait for you to die, because in essence, what he was saying to the father was, listen, I can't wait long enough for you to die. I need my inheritance now. You're taking too long to keel over. So you know what? It might be a few years before that happens. So let me get mine. You know what I mean? Let me hold that. Right? And so he said, you're going to take too long to die. I kind of think about it. You know, right now you're in your 50s. You still got a few years to go. And my life, I need to get on with my life. So you just give me mine right now. Right? And so the father gave him his inheritance. But family, I don't know. It might have been a while since you read that parable. But was it only that son that the father gave the inheritance to? Did he only give the inheritance to that one that asked for it? Or did he give it to both? He gave it to both. He gave it to both. He gave the inheritance to both. Now, when you understand that the inheritance was given to both, then you can understand why that second son had an issue when the other son who took his and left came back. You can understand why he had an issue, but you can also understand too, you can also say, well, you made the decision to stay, so hey, you know. But he gave the inheritance to both. The difference is that the one who asked for it, he took his and he went and he had a good time, parted his away, squandered it all away, right? While the other son decided that he would take his, but he was going to stay and he was going to continue to help his dad and maybe even gain a little bit more on his inheritance, right? But he gave it to both, right? The difference is that one did not just take it and squander it, while the other one did. You see? One, he took his and he squandered it. The other one had his inheritance, but he didn't just squander it. You see? And we're like that. Now, the father decided to give it to the one who asked for it because he knew that, you know what, he's going to have to really go through some stuff in order to learn. And you know, Yahuah is that good to us, that he allows us to get to the end of ourselves so that we can gain some sense. Because if we don't experience ourselves, sometimes we will continue to kid ourselves, thinking that we're somewhere where we're not, or we're somebody that we're not, or we're something that we're not. You see, and we'll continue to look down on other people because we have not been tested. You see, we have not been tested. We have not been tried, and so we will look down on other people. And we will think, well, how could they? Well, why have you not? It's only because you've been sheltered. That's why you haven't. You see. Now he says, so by knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. You see, family, it's easy when we haven't been tried. It's easy to sit back and talk about what we would do and what we will do. But it's something else. It can be something else when the trial comes. You see? It can be something else when the trial comes. You see? So it's important for us to gain knowledge. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So we build the house out of wisdom and understanding. And by knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. You see, when you go to furnish your house, you see, a wise person won't just throw just anything in their house. Okay? A wise person who builds a house is thinking about the future of their their generation, their future generation, the future of their children, right? So when you go and you build a house, the reality is I don't think there is a parent anywhere or there is any person who are not given over to selfishness and self-centeredness who in getting a house is only thinking about themselves. They're looking at it from the perspective as an investment for their children, right? And so now that you build that house out of wisdom and understanding, now when you go to furnish the house, you're going to furnish it out of knowledge. You're not just going to throw some furniture in there that when you sit on it 2 times, it breaks down, and before you know it, you go to sit on the chair and you're laying on the ground. Nah, you're going to do some research. You're going to buy as much as you can afford. You're going to buy some good furniture. If possible, you're going to try to furnish it with things that have some kind of lasting value that's going to be of benefit and of value to your children. Right? And so by knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches, it says. Right? It's not just about furnishing the house, but everything about it is an investment. You see, we're talking about a house here, family, but please apply this in a more deeper sense concerning everything that we do. Why do you do what you do? Why do you live your life the way that you live it? What kind of legacy are you seeking to leave for your children and for your people? Will the way that I live my life today and the decisions that I make, could somebody later on, somehow learning about the way that I live, could they benefit from my life? You know, family, when you think about people in history, many people in history, and people who have left a legacy, those people who are concerned with people truly concerned with others, when they live their life,
Jerry,
they're living their life in hopes that it will affect future generations. Right? They live their life in hope that it will affect future generations. But most of those people, even though that's the way they live their life, most of them don't even realize that there would come a time where while they're not here anymore, that their life would really greatly impact people the way that it turned out to impact them. But they live their life in hopes that it would impact future generation. You know, you might think about Harriet Tubman, right? Harriet Tubman lived her life. Sure, she lived her life to impact future generations, but I don't think she thought that her life would be such an impact that people would study her life. Her ancestors would study her life and seek to learn from her life. Or any of the people who fought for the cause of our people. Most of them don't think, they know that it have an impact, but to the degree that people around the world it would impact people around the world. Yep, like Masha. Did Masha think that to this day that we would be talking about him? Nah. Would Masha think that to this day that people would be seeking to be like him? Nah. But he didn't live his life for himself, nonetheless. He lived his life in a way that would impact the people around him and future generations, even though he didn't realize the impact truly that his life would have. So when we build a house, we want to furnish it with precious and pleasant riches, right? When we build a house, our life is a house. You see? Think about it this way. Every day you go out, when you go to work, you're building a house. What kind of material are you using in that house? Right? You're building a house and then you're going to furnish the house. What kind of furniture are you putting in the house? How does your day-to-day interaction with people, your words, your work ethic, your communications, how does all of that impact the house that you're building? Are you like the foolish woman who builds the house and then tear it down with her own hands? So on one hand, you say something very wise and very profound, and on the next hand, you just knock it totally down by your nasty attitude or whatever it might be. You see? Yes, indeed. Don't furnish it with dead men's bones, right? Now, a wise man is strong. A wise man is strong, and the man of knowledge increases power. A wise man is strong. You know, family, there is strength in being wise. There is power in being wise. You see, the thing that your adversary fear most is the fact that you have wisdom. That's why the enemy will always seek to keep you ignorant. He'll always seek to keep you dumbed down, because wisdom makes you strong. Wisdom allows you to discern the intent of your enemy. And through wisdom, you're able to avert or disarm the enemy. A wise man is strong. Wisdom gives you strength. A wise man is strong, and a man of knowledge increases power. Yahuah tells us that if we lack wisdom, we are to ask for it. Right? And so people might fight against you. They might want to tear you down. But you know what? You don't fall into their trap. You use wisdom. Use the wisdom of Yahuah. The wisdom that Yahuah gives. But you know what? In order for you to gain the wisdom of Yahuah, you got to walk in humility. You got to be humble. Right? You got to be humble. For by wise guidance you will wage war. That's what I'm talking about. By wise guidance you will wage war. So yes, you see the enemy and he is laying his trap. He's trying to set you up. But if you're wise, by wisdom, by wise guidance, you will wage war. You don't just go out there swinging like a madman, but you're tactical in your approach. You see? By wise guidance you will wage war, and in abundance of counsel there is victory. Family, whatever you do, it is important for you to seek the advice of others. It's important for you to seek the thinking of others. Whatever you do, whatever plans you have, do not come up with an idea and then convince yourself that because I came up with this idea, it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know, we can easily convince ourselves that no matter how stupid our ideas might be, we can convince ourselves very, very quickly that this thing is so great that everybody's going to want it. You know how many people have gone into business thinking that way and have failed? They never took the time to ask anybody else. Never took the time to seek advice. Never took the time to seek outside counsel. They come up with an idea, and this is just the greatest thing. And now they go and they put everything they have into it. And because they never sought any counsel, it becomes a big bust. For by wise guidance you will wage war. So family, when you go to war, you do it wisely. Do it by wise guidance. There is a time for everything. There's a time for peace and there's a time for war. You see. And so when it's necessary to wage war, you make sure you do it wisely. You see. You can't always be at peace. So don't fool yourself into thinking that, you know what? Some people will say, they'll tell you, don't fall into this, don't fall into what they're saying or doing, whatever, you just take the high road, and the high road for them means continue to be a dummy. No. There are times when you got to take a stand. There are times when you got to wage war. But if and when that is necessary, you do so wisely. For by wise guidance you will wage war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. You see, it's important to seek counsel. And a wise person will. By the way, I just want to point out something here very quickly about the Abari language and the word Yasha, from which we get the name Yahusha. Okay. The word Yasha comes from, and let me just show you, the word Yasha actually, so the word is salvation, right? It also means deliverance or victory. You see, it means deliverance or a victory. The root of it is Yasha. Okay, the root word is Yasha. But so there is victory in Yahuah is the point that I'm seeking to convey. There is victory in Yahuah. When you wage a battle, if Yahuah is on your side, then there is victory through Yahuah, right? You wage war. If Yahuah is on your side, you'll always have victory. Salvation will always be on your side. Now, Kakam, wisdom is too exalted for a fool. Wisdom is too exalted for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. Now, going back to what I just said, there is a time. There is a time to remain silent, and there is a time to speak. There is a time to wage war, and there is a time for peace. There is a time to examine a situation, and there is a time to act. Now, a foolish person don't recognize the difference between these times. A foolish person speaks out of turn, and a foolish person is silent when they should speak. And so in life, family, you got to know when to speak up and when to be silent. You got to know when enough is enough. You got to know when too much is too much. You see, and you got to know that also you don't have to, how would they put it? As they would say, a ghost behind every bush. There ain't always a ghost behind every bush. However way you want to put it, you see what I'm saying? You don't have to bark at every shadow. You see. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. So you need to know when to speak and when to be silent. Problem is with a fool, the fool speaks when he shouldn't, and he is silent when he should speak. One who plans to do evil, men will call a schemer. That's what you call the one who plots on evil. He's a schemer. He's always scheming. You see? Always possessing malice. The devising of folly is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to men. The devising of folly. So the one who sits around and schemes of foolishness, schemes of evil, that is a transgression, in case somebody didn't know. You have people who sit around and all they do is they plot the destruction of other people all day long. They plot evil all day long. Maybe it is how to get over or something, but that's all they do. That's a transgression. It's a sin, you see. And the scoffer is an abomination to men. Oh, the scoffer. The scoffer is an abomination to men. Who is a scoffer? You know what a scoffer is? One who scorns wisdom, one who scorns wise counsel. You know, there are people who you can't tell them anything, no matter how good the advice is for them. You can't tell them anything. You try to tell them something and they know it all, and yet they know nothing. Their pride won't allow them to be taught. Their pride won't allow them to be instructed. You just can't tell them anything. Yahuah says that one is an abomination to men. He's of no help to himself and no help to mankind. The scoffer. You see? If you are slack in the day of distress, your strength is limited. Now this is the verse, family. Verse 10. Now this translation says, if you are slack in the day of distress. I think that's somewhat of a poor translation. I think to use the word weak is a little bit better. If you are weak in the day of distress, your strength is limited. If you are weak in the day of distress, your strength is limited. Right? If you are weak in the day of distress, your strength is limited. Right? How did I title that again? Let me go back to that. And we're going to talk about it for a little bit. The weak crumble under pressure. That's basically what it is saying. The weak crumble under pressure. Okay? The weak crumble under pressure. Now, let's talk about that for a little bit. The weak crumble under pressure. Now, the way this translation here puts it, it says, if you are slack in the day of distress, it means then that your strength is limited. Now, to put it in my terminology, another way of saying is that the weak crumbles under pressure. The weak crumbles under pressure. Okay? So, family, Yahuah does not expect for his people to be weak. It don't mean that you won't have times of weaknesses, but he does not intend for us to walk around as weaklings, right? Cracking at every hint of pressure. That's not what Yahuah intends for us to be, how he intends for us to be, you see. But we have to be strengthened in and through him, right? The weak crumbles under pressure. Now we can take that, we can look at it from the perspective of temptation. We can look at it from the perspective of attacks, whether it be physical attacks, spiritual attacks, emotional attacks. You see? Do you, when people come against you, do you find yourself crawling up in the bed, pulling the covers over your head, and just wanting to die? When people talk about you, do you just want to wish that you didn't exist, and you just feel totally beat down and terrified and afraid about the whole situation, feeling as if you're helpless in the situation? Yahuwah's intent is not for us to continue to feel that way, family. Yes, we have moments of weaknesses, but He don't intend for us to crumble at every sign of pressure. He doesn't intend for us to do that. And so, how can we avoid that? How can we avoid that? Well, one, we seek Him, right? We seek His wisdom. We seek His wisdom. And when we seek His wisdom, then we realize that things aren't always what they seem. You see, because when you look at situations from a human perspective, from a human perspective, everything that come up against us, we tend to see it as the end of us. We tend to see it as, man, I don't know how I'm going to make it out of this one. I don't know how many times have we been faced with a situation and we feel like this is the end. How many times have you been in a position where you feel like you needed some money, and you needed the money so bad that maybe you said, man, you know what, I'm going to go try to get me a credit card. I'm going to try to get me a loan, because if I don't get this money, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be the end of me. It's going to be the end of my family. And you go and you apply for credit, you apply for a loan or something, and then it didn't go through. It didn't go through. And when you got the note that you have been rejected, now you feel like, oh man, this is really the end. And you're about to lose your mind. But then 20 years later, you look around and you're still standing. You weren't destroyed by the situation, but still in that moment you felt like that was going to be the end of you. And some people become so overwhelmed by situations like that that they even go and they end their own lives. They'll end their own lives. They'll crawl up into a cave and they'll pray and they'll ask Yahuah to take their life, like the prophet Yahuah. You see, the prophet Yahuah, he was on the run because Ahab and his wife was out to get him. They had put a bounty on his head, and they say, anybody who catch this guy, we want him dead or alive. And so when he got word of that, he crawled up into a cave, ate his last meal, prayed to Yahuah, begging for Yahuah to kill him, to take his life, because I don't see any way out. Went up in there, got depressed, and he's waiting to die. You see, went up in there, got depressed, and now he's waiting to die. Yahuah had to come and smack him. Slapped him on his leg and say, get up out of this cave. You see? Because he faced a situation. Yes, it was a stressful situation. Every situation you face, every stressful situation you face, let me put it this way. Your stressful situation does not have to become a distressful situation. Okay? Your stressful situation does not have to become a distressful situation. You see, when a stressful situation becomes distressful, it means that you see no way out, or you feel there is no way out. You feel there is no way that you're going to get out of this. And that's where the danger comes in. Because once it becomes distressful, now it's almost like you're at the point of no return. So you got to be strong for the cause. And what is going to strengthen you is having the knowledge that, number one, Yahuah will not allow you to go through no more than you can bear. Right? Yahuah will not allow you to go through no more than you can bear. That's number one. And number two, be reminded that He is our deliverer. That He does deliver. You see? That He does deliver. No matter how it looks. Because I assure you, family, you will encounter situations, and I have encountered situations where you felt like there was no way out, and yet Yahuah delivered. And so it's important for us to remember the day of our deliverance. It's important for us to mark the times of our deliverance. You notice what from the scriptures, when our ancestors, when they would go through these great moments of trials, these encounters that they would have with Yahuah. Yeah, you know, your stressful situations, they're also encounters with Yahuah, family. Yeah, they're encounters with Yahuah. Yeah. They're encounters with Yahuah. These are times where we wrestle with Yahuah, where Yahuah is bringing out something in us. He's revealing something to us. He's revealing Himself to us. Well, you know, the men of the scriptures, our ancestors, every time they would have these encounters with Yahuah, you know what they would do? After the encounter, they would build an altar. They would build an altar. And every time they pass that way, every time they come upon another situation, that altar would remind them that Yahuah delivered them before, and He'll do it again, right? He delivered me before, and He'll do it again. Akut, could you put the text to that on the screen? Yahuchanan 16:33. He delivered me before, and He'll do it again. While you're doing that, I'm going to jump over here real quickly to the book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, chapter 10. Yahuchanan 16:33, these words I have spoken to you, that in me you might have shalom. In the world you have pressure, but take courage. I have overcome the world. Yes, indeed. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. I'm going to read from verse 10. Neither grumble. Matter of fact, let me point out something to you from verse 9. Okay? Neither let us try Mashiach. I want you to pay attention to this here very closely. This is Shaul speaking. And this is one of many places where Shaul identifies Mashiach as Yahuah. As a matter of fact, let me just show you here. I believe that that has something to do with internet connection. Family Akut Al Yashba said it just showed up on her screen clearly, and I didn't do anything different on my end. So I believe the reason why you see that fuzziness on your screen sometimes has to do with internet connectivity. You know, I believe that's what's happening, right? But there are many places when you read the writings of Shaul where Shaul identify Mashiach as no other than Yahuah himself, and he does so very clearly. In this text, there are a few places where he does it. Since I'm here, I just want to point this out to anyone who might still be wrestling with this. Okay? For I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Now let me ask you, according to the scriptures, who was the cloud? When Shaul here says that all our father was under the cloud. Sorry to hear that, Akut. Who was the cloud? Mashiach. But when you go to the book of Shamut, Exodus, who does it identify the cloud to be? Yahuah, right? In the book of Shamut, it identifies the cloud to be Yahuah, right? In the book of Shamut. Shaul identifies the cloud to be Mashiach, Yahusha. So what does that tell us? It tells us that Yahuah and Mashiach, Yahusha is actually the same. That Mashiach, Yahusha is Yahuah manifested in flesh to his people, just as, now listen, if Yahuah was able to manifest himself in the form of a cloud, listen, if Yahuah was able to change his appearance to that of a cloud, what makes it so difficult then for him to manifest himself in the form of man? Huh? If Yahuah was able to change his appearance to the form of a rock, what makes it so difficult for him to appear in the form of man? If he was able to manifest himself in the form of fire, what makes it so difficult to manifest himself in the form of man? Shamut, Exodus chapter 14 and verse 19. And the messenger, the servant of Elohim, you see how it identifies him? Servant. Because when Yahuah presents himself in any other form, he comes as a servant to his people. Messenger to his people. And the messenger of Elohim who went before the camp of Yasharal moved and went behind them. And the column of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. And Yahuah went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. Okay? Now watch this. For I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. And all were immersed into Masha in the cloud and in the sea. And all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed, and the rock was Mashiach. Now the rock is identified as Yahuah also, right? So you see, Shaul is telling us that Mashiach is no other, Yahusha is no other than Yahuah himself. He is our rock. He is our cloud. He is our fire. He is the burning. He is the one that was in the burning bush. He was the fire that spoke from the burning bush. He was all of that, Yahuah. He is all of that, you see. However, with most of them, Elohim was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness. So hear what he said. You see the word here, Elohim, that's speaking of Yahuah, right? And these became examples for us that we should not lust after evil, as those indeed lusted. Going back to the first warning in chapter 24, don't lust after evil. don't let the wicked be our standard, the standard by which we ought to live our life or of what we ought to accomplish. You see, the timing of the wicked will always mess us up, because the timing of the wicked is not Yahuwah's timing. The wicked is always in a hurry. Yahuwah does things patiently, because patience must have its perfect work in order for there to be true maturity, you see. Now, let's look some more. Wait, I'm sorry, I missed yes, indeed, Aki. Yahusha is Yahuwah manifest in the flesh. Many have a hard time understanding this. Now, but let's now watch this. This is very important though. So let me continue to read it. Because Shahul is saying something very profound here. We're studying from the book of Galatians, which it is the same message in the book of Galatians. You see? The message of our salvation, Yahuwah being our Mashiach, our deliverer. You see? And these became examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil as those indeed lusted, and do not become idolaters as some of them. As it has been written, the people sat down to eat and to drink, and stood up to play. Neither should we commit whoring as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. Neither let us try Mashiach, as some of them also tried and were destroyed by serpents. So who did they try while they were in the wilderness? They tried Mashiach. But wait, Mashiach had not come yet, huh? So how could they have tried Mashiach? That's because Mashiach is no other than Yahuwah himself. Mashiach is Yahuwah. That's who they tried in the wilderness. Mashiach has always been. He has always existed. He is Yahuwah. Mashiach simply means deliverer. Yeah, Mashiach simply means Yahuwah is our deliverer. Okay, but now let's get to the point of what I'm trying to get to. Neither grumble as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. Okay? And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come, so that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed, lest he fall. So there are a few warnings here as we get into where I'm trying to get to here, family. Okay? There's a few warnings for us now. Number one, Yahuwah don't expect for us to be some weakling that is easily knocked over under pressure. That's one, right? And there are a few things to keep us strengthened and to keep us grounded. Know that whatever it is that you're going through, that Yahuwah is doing a work in your life. And be careful not to grumble against Yahuwah. Neither grumble as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. So you see, when pressure comes, family, you gotta be careful not to grumble against the work of Yahuwah in your life. What happened to Yasharal after they had traveled 3 days and there was no water? Certainly they felt like they were going to die, right? They said, are there not enough graves in Egypt? Are there not enough graves in Mitzrayim? Have you brought us out here to kill us? Have you brought us out here for us to die in a desert place? Aren't there enough graves in Mitzrayim? They begin to grumble against Yahuwah. Yeah, they were weak. They were weaklings, you see. The weak grumble, murmur, and complain at everything. And when you begin to grumble and murmur and complain, you got to be careful, because you might seal your destruction. You begin to murmur, right? You begin to grumble. You begin to complain because you don't realize that this is Yahuwah working in your life. That this is Yahuwah bringing about something good in your life. No, they didn't recognize that. So they begin to murmur and complain. And what happened? 23,000 of them died in one day. Dangerous thing. You see. Now listen, there's more. So be careful now when pressure comes that you don't become a grumbler, that you don't become a murmurer. So number one, listen. Number one, know that when the trial comes, it's not for your destruction, but it is to strengthen you. You see, if you're working in a situation where you have people coming up against you, no, you don't lose your cool. Don't lose your mind. Don't lose your head and go crazy. No. Be thankful for it. Because this is an opportunity for you to get better. This is an opportunity for you to get better. The enemy, the adversary don't know it. He don't realize that he's just a tool in the hands of Yahuah, that he's actually setting you up for your promotion. He don't realize that. You're being set up to be promoted, but whether or not you are promoted is going to depend on whether you respond in wisdom or you respond as a fool. Don't allow yourself to get fleshly. You see? Reflect on Yahuwah's word and remember how Yahuwah works. You see? Don't get in the flesh, in your carnality. But know that when they come against you, that this is an opportunity for Yahuwah to shine brightest in your life. That he is setting you up for a promotion. That the very people who come against you, that if you would respond in the right way, guess what? Yahuwah is going to have you ruling over them. Just like he set up Yahusha. You see? And all the other people that he has done so with. So that's number one. When pressure comes, know that it's Yahuwah working. He has commenced a work in your life. Know that he delivers, that he is your Mashiach, he is your deliverer, that you're not in this by yourself, that if he brought it your way, he's going to see you through it. Know that this is not the end of you, no matter how bad it looks. If Yahuwah is on your side, this is not the end of you. Keep those things in mind, right? And then the other thing is, don't begin to grumble and don't begin to complain. Neither grumble as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. The moment you begin to grumble, you know what you begin to do? The next thing, you're going to curse Yahuwah. That's what you're going to do next. After you begin to grumble, you're going to curse Yahuwah, because rather than reflecting on his goodness and reflecting on all that he has done for you, now the only thing you can find is to be bitter against him, and then you're going to begin to lie against him. You're going to begin to say that he ain't never done nothing for you, that he is not real, that he hasn't been active in your life, he has done nothing for you, and you're setting yourself up for the adversary to cut you off. You're opening yourself up to be cut off by the adversary because you're giving yourself over to the adversary. So he tells you, he warns you, don't grumble. Neither grumble as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. Now watch this. And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. You see, Shaul was talking about one end of the age. There are many end of age in the scriptures, and we have talked about this before. Now we're at another time in history where we're living in the end of the ages. You see. And a lot of pressure is going to come. A lot of pressure is going to come. I don't know how many people see this, but who saw this the other day on the news, where there is a company requiring all their employees to put a chip in their hand. Anybody saw that? Yeah. There's a company requiring their employees to put a chip in their hands. RFID. You see, that's significant. That's significant. Yep, that's significant. Yeah. We're living in the end of the age, family. Where pressure is going to come. But this you got to be reminded of, that our ancestors lived in a day when there was great pressure. And Yahuah was the cloud that sheltered them by day, and he was the fire that provided them light by night, and he was the fire that stood between them and the adversary, and then he was the one that drowned their adversary. So when pressure drop, as we would say, when pressure drop, you don't begin to murmur and complain. Know that Yahuah is your deliverer. It is Yahuah that parted the sea of reeds and caused our people to walk over on dry ground. And then as the enemy began to pursue and they got in the midst of the sea, it was Yahuah that rolled back the waves and drowned them all in the midst of it. Halahu Yahuah. Stand no matter what. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Aki. Our electronic devices, guess what? Your TV, your television is a camera that can be accessed to spy on you. Your tablet, your phones, your computers, all of it. They can tap into it, turn your camera on. Your TV have a camera in it. People don't even realize that. I'm not making it up. They even show it on TV, on the news. They show it on TV, the smart TVs. They can take control of your car and do with it whatever they want to do. Yeah, the iPhone. Yeah. The iPhone. EYE. Yeah. You see. Yeah. Kudal Yashima says, oh boy, what a sight they'll see here. Kudal Yashima said, oh boy, what a sight they'll see here. You see, but when the pressure comes, it ain't time to murmur and to complain and to forget that Yahuah is our deliverer. It is time to stand and know that he does deliver. You see, it's not time to be weak. You know, there's been a lot of talk about miracles. But again, when will we see the miraculous acts of Yahuah? As these times become more and more evil, more and more wicked, where they seek to cut off the people of Yahuah. And Yahuah will stand up for his people. Yahuah will provide for his people. We won't need to get their chip in order to have health insurance to see their corrupt doctors. Yahuah will be our physician, the great physician. We won't need their chip so we can go to work in order to eat. Yahuah will provide for his people as he has. You see. And still doing, indeed. And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. So that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. Here's another warning, family. Here's another warning. Humble. We have to humble ourselves. Don't praise yourself talking about how strong you are and how much you're standing. Be careful. Let it not be about what you say, but how you stand. Because we've got to be careful lest we fall, lest we kid ourselves. You see. But this is what I'm trying to get to here. No trial. Keep this in mind. No trial, no stress has overtaken you except such as is common to man. So here is what is important for you to understand, family, and to be reminded of. You see, when the adversary come against us, when the enemy come against us, whether physically or spiritually, when Shaitan comes against us, we tend to think that it is only us, that we're going through this by ourselves. You see? We tend to think that nobody else is going through this. Nobody else feels this way. Nobody else is being attacked in this way. It is only me. But Yahuah wants us to be reminded that there is no pressure that come upon you that somebody else have not gone through and I have not delivered them from. You see. He says, no trial, no stress has overtaken you except such as is common to man. And Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make the way of escape, enabling you to bear it. Whoa, you see that? Watch that now for a second. You notice what the way of escape is? The way of escape is not saying that here's a door, run through it real quick. That's not the way of escape. You know what the way of escape is? The way of escape is that he enables you to bear the trial. The way of escape isn't that there is a door right here. Take this door real quick and then you won't have to deal with the trial. No. The way of escape is to go through the fire. There ain't no other way out but to go through the fire is what he is saying. But he has enabled you to bear it. He has enabled you to bear it. He will enable you to bear it. You see. You got to go through the fire. And after you have gone through the fire, then you will come out as refined gold. But the only way that gold can be refined is that it goes through the whole heating process. You see? It's got to go through the whole fire process. It's got to go through the whole heating process and the whole skimming process. It's got to go through the whole process. And that's the only way it's going to come out pure. That's the only way it's going to come out refined. So he says that with the trial, he will also make the way of escape. And that way is to enable you to bear the trial. He enables you to bear the trial. He enables you to bear the trial. You see, that's the way of escape. He enables us to bear the trial. You see. Yes, indeed, Aki. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You see. He enables us to bear the trial. That's what Yahuah does. You see, when our ancestors, the three Abari boys, when they were thrown in the fire, what did Yahuah do? He didn't cut a hole in the side of what's his name's oven and tell them come this way. No, he got in the fire with them. And he stayed in the fire with them. And then after the process, and they came out of the fire. It said that they didn't even smell like smoke. You see, we continue to hold fast to Yahuah and to trust Yahuah in our fires and the fires of life. We will come out of those fires not even smelling like smoke. And then you know what happened at the end of our fiery trial? You know what happens? Our enemy, the one who laid the trap for us, he is the one that is then consumed by the fire. You see? He is the one that is then consumed by the fire. Yes, indeed. The fire was heated even 7 times hotter. You see, Yahuah tells us that if you're going to dig a ditch, dig two. He says the one who dig the ditch is the one that's going to fall in it. And so while the wicked try to lay a trap for the set apart ones of Yahuah, the one who lays the trap, he don't realize that he's laying a trap for himself. No, you would think that because he laid the trap, then he would know to avoid the trap. But he's stupid. He's a fool. And he goes and he walks into his own trap. We see that time and time again. We see people laying traps for the people of Yahuah, and then they fall right into it. Right now, family, I don't know about where you live, but I know that where I live, Governor Chris Christie have a bunch of billboards all over New Jersey. A bunch of billboards all over New Jersey because there's a crisis. There's an epidemic. You know what the crisis is? You know what the epidemic is? No, it's not water. It's not water, family. Heroin. Too many white people dying from heroin overdose. So now it's a crisis. But guess what? All these years, they've been putting drugs in the black communities. And you know, amazingly, it wasn't a whole lot of black people dying from them drugs. Even though the intent was to kill them. But they weren't dying from it. They were addicted, but they weren't dying from it in the way that you see people dying. Now there are billboards all over New Jersey and commercials on TV all day long about getting help for your addiction. Because there is now a crisis. So on the front page of every newspaper, you have people crying about their kids leaving the suburbs and they're finding them dead in the hood from drug overdose. Now they're giving the police free medication to resuscitate them. Expensive medication to resuscitate them after they have overdosed. But now it's a crisis. Before it wasn't a crisis. When families were being destroyed, it wasn't a crisis. But you see, that's the way it is, family. That's the way it is. Yep, the Tuskegee experiments and all of the other experiments they have done, not just here in America, but around the world. You see, Yahuah said it, that he who dig a ditch will fall in it, and he who breaks an edge, the serpent will bite him. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 12. You see. And yes, indeed. Now that cop that killed Michael Brown, they wouldn't release his identity for a long time. You see. And if it wasn't for personal videos, a lot of these other situations where these cops kill these people for no, really, for uncalled for reason, their identity we wouldn't know their identity if it wasn't for people taking videos. You see. But you see, family, it's all right because Yahuwah's justice is sure. Can't rely on this justice system because there is no justice. No, it's even worse that Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions is in control. It's worse because they're erasing laws that were put in place to bring some measure of justice. They're just wiping them out day by day, wiping them out day by day, wiping them out, proudly wiping them out. But there's a judge who don't blink. And this judgment is taking place right now. You see, his judgment is taking place right now. You see. Now, all right, let's get back to the text. There are some other places we could look at, but let's get back to the text. So, family, if you crack in the day of stress, it's because you're weak. Yahuah has not given us a spirit of fear, but he has given us spirit of love, and I'm not talking about Christian love, power, and a sound mind. You see? Deliver those who are being taken away to death, and those who are staggering to slaughter, oh, hold them back. And we talked about this in our last study, about speaking up for those who can't, and the importance and the expectation that Yahuah have concerning that. That's basically what this is talking about. But you know what, family? We're going to stop here for today. And again, it is my hope that what we have covered today from Yahuwah's Word has been a barakah to you. I'm going to open up the mic. If there are any comments or questions before we close, I want to ensure that you have that opportunity to present them. All praise to Yahuah. Allow Yahuah. Let me just change my screen so I can see. Okay, Aki Dahoud, please go ahead, Aki.
Hey, brother. So what do you think about? What do you think about these portals going on with CERN and this whole eclipse thing that they're trying to do? I think 8.
Wow, you the end of I got the first question about CERN, and you mentioned the eclipse, but I didn't get that part fully. Aki, could you say it again for me?
Sure. What do you think about these this solar alignment that they're really talking about, where Jupiter is supposed to be lined up with all the, I don't know, it's some type of celestial event that hasn't happened in eon ages like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about it, but do you think that they're trying to open up the abyss? Because that's what I believe, that they're working with the fallen ones to open up the abyss, to bring out the judgments upon the earth.
You know, that's a great point, and I'll say this, that these people, these governments, even though they might think that they're working on their own accord, and in some ways they know that they're not working on their own accord, because as we have seen, excuse me, Shah, as we have seen, they have their secret societies, they have their orders of worship, and they do all of this stuff. So they're actually worshiping, you see, and they're giving esteem to the idols that they esteem. And so they're opening themselves up and seeking to open themselves up, because they feel that that's the way they gain knowledge, right? That's the way they become enlightened. And so, yes, they're working with the fallen ones. And sometimes more so than they realize, more so than they know. And so in so doing, they're fulfilling also what has been written. And so these things that they do, Aki, some of them, I don't believe everybody is aware of what they're really doing, even though that's what they're doing.
Because the compartmentalization, I mean, there's compartmentalization even in SCI top secret.
Indeed. Yes, but that's what That's what they're doing there. So and so there are people who knows exactly what's going on, and then there are people who are just they're the puppets, they're the bobbleheads, getting it done. But there are people who know, there are people who knows exactly what's going on now to advance their agendas. There are two things that they'll always use to advance their agenda, two arguments, and that is security and in the name of science. You see, in the name of making us better, making things better for mankind. But in reality, what have they done to really that have really made things better?
Yeah, but when I think of like Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, it wasn't a tower that they were literally building. It was like they were trying to get into Samyam and make war with the Creator. So that's why I land. So this is around the same thing. And when I hear Nimrod, I always think of like a rod going straight to the portal of Samyam, above the firmament and the waters above, like trying to outweigh the frequency above. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a lightning rod, like Nimrod.
And technically, you could say that exactly to be so, because you see, it's a pursuit of knowledge. It's a pursuit of knowledge. It goes back to the beginning with Shaitan when he said he will exalt himself, right? When he said that, when basically he tried to place himself higher than Yahuah. You see, so it's the pursuit of knowledge to become wiser than your Creator, and because they want to be in the place of the highest. They want to be worshipped. You see, and so the greatest. A lot of people might not be aware of this, but the people who make the laws, even of this country, and even while they're still serving, many of them are breakers of the laws. They make laws about drunk driving, and yet they're drunk drivers. They make laws about sexual crimes, and yet they're guilty of sexual crimes.
Again, because they're not laws, Aki, they're legally, it's their governing. Government is a Latin word. Gamantius is Latin for control, and ment is the word for mind. So they're controlling the mind with stuff. Not everything is law.
Indeed. Exactly correct. Exactly correct, Aki. And so they put in these things to control the people, but yet it don't apply to them. And you can look at that from every perspective, whether it be their rules about finances, and corporations and how they operate, things like that. They said they'll send somebody to prison for insider trading, but yet they can do so legally and all of that stuff. You see, so it's the hypocrisy. But again, it's about becoming being viewed as the highest, wanting to take the place of the highest. So whatever they do is in pursuit of that. Concerning the solar alignments. Now, there are some people who put a lot of energy and effort into these things. We know that Yahuah tells us that the heavens, the stars of the heavens, the stars of Shamayim, they're for signs unto his people. You see, but there are people who get more caught up in the creation more so than the Creator. And as a result, for many years we have always seen people do stupid things and say foolish things and wrong things concerning these things. I don't get so caught up into it because, quite frankly, I don't have as much knowledge. Yahuah haven't revealed anything so magnificent to me that I can totally understand all of his signs.
What I find interesting, is when we are, the power of our words. You told us that there's life and death within our tongues. And Yahuwah's words are going to be the sword that destroys the wickedness of the end. I find it very peculiar that the language of today, they call it spells, or spelling, or spell test, or cursive, which is cursing, So definitely language has been the number one thing that Shaitan has used to try to mask what was spoken in the very beginning.
Indeed.
Whether it's translations or transliterations or changing names up, it's all language. And that's what was told in Babel that would happen.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely a key. That is the number one weapon, language. And all going all the way back to Babal, as you mentioned. That's why Yahuwah said that he had to come down and he had to confound the language. You see, and it's even though the language has been confounded, they have still been working in now in a far more limited way, but they have still been working and using it as a weapon in order to extend ignorance or to keep people ignorant.
Yes, a key. And knowledge is number one thing that people try to reach. But I always break down words and I say, well, know the ledge you're on. Because that same ledge will fall off of.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Indeed. You can become so consumed till you're drunk on what you're consuming and you fall off that ledge. So that is certainly true.
All right, shalom, family.
Shalom to you, Aki. All right, to the Aki for sharing. Any other? Let me just check YouTube. Just want to make sure before we close if there are any other comments or questions that I'm sure that everyone do have that opportunity. Let me just check YouTube. Check the family on YouTube. Okay. All right. Well. Once again, we give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem for this opportunity. Say Toda Rabbah to you, family, for your patience and for your input and for making this fellowship possible by us coming together. We give Yahuwah praise. We give him the esteem. He truly deserves it all. And so we're going to prepare to close out here today. And Yahuwah willing, I'll be seeing you soon. And we're gonna close out in prayer, and it is my hope, my prayer that Yahuwah would rest your days. I praise Yahuwah. Halal Yahuwah. Father, we thank and praise you for this time. We ask Yahuwah that you would continue to favor your people. We praise and thank you for your dabar, your word that is living, active, and powerful, life-changing indeed. Praise Yahuwah. We thank you for your reassurance in all things. And even though the adversary may work to hinder and to bring us down, we pray, Yahuwah, that you would continue to seal and to protect your people, Father. We pray for every household represented here today, that your favor would be upon your house, upon your people, Father. Strengthen us, Father, where we're weak. And Abba Yahuwah, reassure us where we need it. Let your barakah be upon us continually. And may your name be praised. May your name, your great name, be exalted. Do this, we pray. In Yahusha's name. Amen. Praise Yahuwah. Family, may Yahuwah barak you and keep you. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuwah cause his face to shine upon you and give you shalom. May the name of Yahuwah be upon you. Halal Yahuwah. We love you, Mashpaka, and Yahuwah willing, we will see you soon. With that, I'm going to say Shalom and Leila Tov. family. Love you all, and shalom, everyone.